Okay, it's 7:05, and that is when we are supposed to kick off this panel. So I think some other folks will be joining us as they shift out of the main stage. And we'll get going with introductions and things as everybody else keeps joining us. So my name is Carlyn Madden, and I am the CEO of Good Insight. I'm very happy to be your moderator for today. My day-to-day work, I work with nonprofits on executive searches and board development. In my evening times, I support organizations like the Catalog. I've been a longtime Catalog reviewer. I'm excited to have a conversation today about creative communities with these three panelists who have a chance to introduce themselves. I'd like to invite you all to ask questions using the chat, and my colleague Nancy with the Catalog will be popping in toward the end of our conversation to share some questions from the audience. So feel free to add a question in the chat for any of our panelists or anything broader, and we can go from there. So my panelists are going to introduce themselves, and then I'll get started with questions.
I'm Alexis. I am the Director of Education and Administration with the Keegan Theater. We are a smaller theater, professional theater located right in DuPont Circle. We produce large musicals in an intimate setting, a variety of different productions in addition to those musicals. We also have an education department focused on cultivating students' creative voices. And we also do new works. We look at cultivating and supporting new artists and amplifying new voices. So obviously with the pandemic, we are not able to do in-person performances, but we did launch in March to digital programming with we basically took our curriculum and we embraced the technology and we started to jump right into interactive classes. From there, we went into our Boiler Room series, which is our new works department, in order to amplify a variety of often underheard voices. And we are beyond excited that tonight, in less than an hour, we are having the world premiere of Trans Am, which is a one-woman rock musical of Elisa Friday and her trans experience, which is running in rep with From Gumbo to Mumbo, which is one of my all-time favorite shows that started as a children's youth production, and we are adultifying it, and we are streaming those live from our space. So they performed live for 12 nights each. So we'll talk more about that later on, I hope.
That's so exciting. Congratulations, Alexis. Aloha, y'all. My name is Christopher. I'm the Executive Artistic Director of Dance Place. My pronouns are he, his, him. Dance Place is a 40-year-old dance school and presenter of dance performances in the Brookline Edgewood neighborhood of Washington, D.C. We're super excited to be celebrating our 40th year anniversary. When we started all of our planning, we had no idea it would look like this. Annually, we host about 35 weekends of performances by upwards of 80 artists and dance companies each year. They take place in our beautiful, intimate 144-seat theater. And this is a mix of mixed-bill evenings and full evening presentations. In that, we work with a really broad range of artists. Our curatorial vision is to reflect this incredible we are so fortunate to be a part of. We're always looking for new artistic relationships, and we are very interested in supporting boundary-pushing artists. While fostering new relationships, we also try and honor long-standing relationships with folks in the field. As an educational institution, we have a wide range of youth and adult dance classes, and some of those youth programs really anchor our neighborhood and serve long-standing residents of the Brookline Edgewood community that has been evolving like so many of our urban environments. In March of 2020, when the pandemic forced the closure of our physical building, we made a quick and relatively smooth pivot to digital programming. Our goal was to connect our artists with audiences and our dance teachers with students. What we found happened was we were able to connect with longstanding kind of stakeholders or community members, audiences that no longer live in the DC area. So it had a different kind of reach than we first anticipated. The other thing that happened over time is, when we first started, it was a quick shift. We were using social media platforms, which had been marketing platforms for us, and we were starting to deliver content through them. By the time we got to summer, we were able to refine that a little more, work more deeply with artists and make sure that the products matched their vision. And have them behind different types of platforms that better served their needs. And one of the things I'm most excited about in our digital pivot was our summer camp that serves 80 children and teens every summer. We were able to fully virtualize that, and we had just enough time to really figure it out, to get 20 laptops and notepads into homes, 7 Wi-Fi hotspots to make sure that our youth and their families had access, and 4 laptops to teachers to be able to stream from their homes. So in our educational program, we were able to kind of really transform the way we were able to deliver content. It's great to be with you all tonight.
Hi, this is Evan Ross Solomon. I'm the artistic director and one of the principal conductors of the DC Youth Orchestra program. DC Youth Orchestra program is celebrating 60 years in existence, and we have approximately 600 students a year. They form over 10 orchestras as well as a school of music. And we're kind of raising the stakes here and sort of becoming a national leader here in terms of musical education for students of all ages. Our program starts, you can come at 4.5 years old and come all the way till you're 18 and graduate high school. We call it Twinkle to Tchaikovsky. And we have many students who have started with us at a very young age and gone through our program and become professional musicians. Many of our students are seated in some of the major symphonies. They're record producers, they're hip hop artists all over the country. And then many of our students just become great citizens, go to the top colleges, etc., all the while sounding amazing in our youth orchestra, which has toured over 20 countries over the course of the history of this organization. Most recently, we went to the Musica Riva Festival in Italy, where we were the first American youth orchestra to serve as the ensemble in residence. Around March 1st, we had just had an incredible and successful rehearsal with the great Gianandrea Noceda, the NSO's music director, and we basically the next week switched over to entirely digital youth orchestra. We have really perfected the craft of virtual orchestra. We didn't know what that existed until now, but now we've figured it out, and we have 10 orchestras playing virtual concerts. Our first one from the spring was incredible, left me with tears in my eyes, and I think a lot of the viewers felt the same way. So as we move forward in the digital world, we're entirely digital now, and we're looking for ways to sort of invigorate our program with that. And as we move slowly but surely back to in person, obviously the spirit of orchestra is being together. So we look forward to that.
Thank you. And welcome to all of our panelists and all of the viewers. Just as a reminder, we're going to take a couple questions at the end, so feel free to add questions in the chat. I'm Carlyn Madden. I'm the moderator of this conversation. We're going to have each of the panelists talk about engagement. So the arts world certainly has been deeply affected by the crisis. Arts is something that we normally participate in person, as you can hear all of our panelists talk about their shifts. And so each of our panelists is going to talk about a different aspect of engagement. We're going to start with Alexis, who's going to tell us a little bit more about audience engagement and what does it look like to build new audiences in this moment in time.
It has definitely been an interesting challenge. I think one of the things that we did is we actually took a little bit of time to be still first, that we actually paused in terms of thinking about a main stage or even thinking about our Boiler Room series. And I think what that moment is that we had the opportunity to listen to voices that had been unheard previously. And one of the things that we thought about was what were the assets that we had, that we possessed, that Keegan has. And we knew we had our building, and we really thought about the fact that we had microphones. So we felt that we had a responsibility to pass the microphone to voices that heard. we needed to step back from a producing role, and we really needed to empower artists to be able to have a safe space to share their stories. So it has been a challenge because it's different from the stories that we have been traditionally telling, and we're taking a risk to say to the community that these are important stories, and they're stories that need to be told. And we know that it may not be necessarily comfortable, it may be unique, but there is a connecting human condition in all of the stories. There are connecting experiences that we've gone through, and it's important for all of us to be listening. So we are seeing an increase in engagement versus social media through ticket sales, not in the way that we would have previously, but we're excited to see not only engagement in our area, but across the country. So now we're reaching people not only in DC, but New York, LA, New Orleans. So it's been really exciting to see that kind of impact as well.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think a lot about this national reach that organizations didn't have. It was hard to get somebody to California to come see a show. Christopher, on the artist side, what does it look like to engage artists in this moment in time?
Yeah, well, it's no surprise, like many other sectors, the artists that we encounter and work with at Dance Place have really been struck hard by the economic impact of the health pandemic and the call to racial and social justice that have been amplified since the murder of George Floyd back in June. And we've been feeling the intersection of these things, what the pandemic has been exposing about some of the systemic inequity that so many of our friends, colleagues, artists, stakeholders are feeling. So, you know, in the first phase of the pandemic, we were really interested in trying to maintain connectivity. The pandemic was starting to isolate folks, and live gathering, like for all of us, is such an important part of what we do. So we were really trying to figure out, okay, how can we stay connected through conversations, through video sharing, through those types of means. And then in light of the call to deeper and stronger racial, social justice and equity, we realized that we needed to create a place where we could hold space for folks, and that connection was just a little different than what it had been in the first couple months of the pandemic. And now I think we're starting to see these things align so that we are able to support artists like the incredible Rania Lee Anderson, who did a physically distant commission by us that was an outdoor, safe, for small, intimate audiences of 6 at a time in 5 little mini locations, and all masked. She did this incredible work called Monumental Bodies. And Rania is an incredible Black artist who made work that was really inspired by responding to this time. So I think, like we see in many other crises, artists are compelled to respond through their mediums to what's happening in the world around them. And I feel very fortunate that Dance Place has the stability and the ability to pay artists for their work continuing through this pandemic time, where we've just seen such dramatic losses in financial impact, let alone, of course, the much deeper impacts that we're all sort of navigating as well. Yeah, so that's a little bit how we've been connecting with our artistic community in this time.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And Evan, you talk about reaching 600 youth through the DC Youth Orchestra program. And I think about this pandemic and what we know to be true about how it's affecting youth and the inability to get together, and being in a small orchestra is so important. Tell us a little bit about how you all are fostering community and engagement of the youth participants that you're working with.
Carlyn. I mean, in terms of adults, it's been very hard on everybody, but for students and youth in general, I think it's even a loss that a lot of adults really can't fathom, to lose that place in your social group at school and all that comes with it. And for something like DC Youth Orchestra program, where our students, they love it. It's a centerpiece of their lives and something that they fall back on for a lot of emotional and comfort that being part of something like making music gives. And it's a tremendous loss for them. And we've done what we could to encourage them to stay connected through music, and basically through video sharing and being together on Zoom. We were still able to put together a lot of inspiring musical performances that have improved and help keep the students connected. We also, and we have an incredible team at DC Youth Orchestra Program, our development team, our program team, just fantastic. And above all, our teachers, who are the people that connect with these students one-on-one, sometimes in a group each week. And we listened to these folks. We listened to what the teachers were saying and what the students were saying. And so we created some other programming for our students, such as theory classes, history classes, classes where people get to explore music together, albeit online, where they were able to even enrich themselves further in terms of a knowledge base. So it ends up being almost everything possible and more that happens at a rehearsal, but just sadly minus the most important component. And I will tell you that our students are very, very longing to have that sound of a full orchestra around them. And so are their conductors.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. All of the panelists, just to get a sense of what engagement looks like in all these different facets. We've only got a couple minutes left. I haven't seen any questions pop into the chat. So because we're short on time, just thinking about maybe a minute or so from each of you, how can people be supporting you in this moment in time? Alexis, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. If you visit our website, you can get more information about Trans Am, as well as From Gumbo to Mumbo. It's 2 different shows, and sharing a stage, but alternating nights. So, there's going to be some hiccups and some of those things that you're going to get from a live show, because we've chosen not to go into the into filming the performances for right now, because we want to have that energy of a live performance, even if we can't be together in person.
Great. Christopher, how can people support you all right now?
So similarly, definitely tune into our website, danceplace.org. We have adult and youth dance classes of a wide range of styles that folks can engage in. And since the pandemic, we've been operating on a sliding scale. We recognize so many folks' income have been impacted. So we're really trying to meet our community members where they're at. So come in, take a class. Join in for one of the panel discussions or the physically distant performances or the digital virtual performances, and follow us on social media. And I would also say too, continue to advocate for continued and deep art support with our district and federal government. February is always a big important time for DC area arts organizations, and the advocacy of our broad community for arts funding, especially in a year that might feel a little volatile when it comes to budgeting, would be really meaningful.
Thank you for that.
Folks who want to get more involved with DC Youth Orchestra Program can check out our website and our YouTube page, where we have compiled an incredible amount of content that we've created over the course of the quarantine. We have interviews with our executive director, Elizabeth Shergan, talking to some of the most interesting artists in the region who are also part of our sort of large DC Youth Orchestra family. And we have a lot of examples of our virtual performances. And if you stay tuned, in about 3-4 weeks, we'll have our winter concert out featuring a world premiere of our youth orchestra playing a new arrangement of Deep River, which should be a pretty spectacular. And I just encourage you that when we get through this period, to come out and check us out in concert, because these kids are incredible students, some of the best players that you will never believe that they're students. You'll think they're professional musicians.
Yeah, I've had a chance to see each of your organizations in action over the years, and really just admire the work that each of you are doing every day. And I'd encourage everybody to visit websites, sign up for newsletters. There's so much interesting things going on in the arts that you don't have to leave your home, for better or for worse, to be able to see. I really appreciate the conversation that we were able to have today about creative communities. The catalog has a bit for me to read, so that I make sure that I'm guiding you for the next couple minutes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read it so that I'm not messing anything up. I think we can all do a little mini applause here for the panelists, certainly. And appreciate everybody that was able to join us as well. We're going to take a 3-minute break or so and then go into the next round of community conversations. So you can pop back in using the same sessions button here on the side. In the meantime, if maybe you leave, grab a snack, no popcorn in this virtual lobby, but grab your own snack or glass of wine to join into the next conversation. Or you can hang out at the main stage and see the video production and photos of all of the different grantees. And then there'll be a couple minutes at the very end for the catalog to close us out. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'm so grateful that you chose to be a part of our creative conversation today.